So especially if anyone who's listening or watching wants to become a coach, your biggest task in the beginning will be learning how to communicate what you do in order to inspire people to work with you so that you can build up a client base. That's like the biggest number one challenge and focus of any new coach. And then learning to get consistent with the sales. Don't be afraid of small beginnings. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Just give yourself time.
Welcome to the Job Dictionary podcast. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Kirsten Kemp, who is working in mindset coaching specifically for dancers, which is something that's really exciting to talk about. I'm a dancer myself, so I love that I'm getting to interview Kirsten today. First off, we have these questions that we always like to start with. So they're kind of quick, and we're going to ask every guest this. So, in your own words, Kirsten, could you tell me what you do?
Yes, I help dancers overcome the mental blocks that stop them from not only performing their best consistently, but also enjoying their journey and experience confidence in what they do. So, helping dancers through things like self-doubt, performance anxiety, perfectionism, comparison, things like that. That is my jam.
Amazing. I love to hear it. And then could you tell me where you are located?
Yeah, Austin, Texas. But I work over Zoom, so I work with people from all over the world.
Awesome. So you work remotely. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me something. When you were a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And is this what you're doing today connected to what you wanted to do?
Yes, actually. So, of course,
Yay.
I went through different evolutions of what I wanted to do. But as a little kid, I said I wanted to be a business owner some of the week and then an artist the other part of the week. And I ended up getting to fulfill my dream of being a professional ballerina. And I still dance, and I also have my own business. So look at that. Little 6-year-old me
Great.
knew what was up.
I love it. I love to hear that, especially when it comes to anything artistic, because
Yeah.
I mean, as a young professional, sometimes it can be hard to look at how can I make this work? I love doing this. I'm passionate about this. And so it's very inspirational to get to hear from someone like you who is thriving in that area. So I love that. Okay, could you share with me how long have you been working specifically in mindset coaching for dancers?
Yeah, 6 years now, which is crazy.
Awesome. That's great. And what made you want to get into the field? How did you get started? What was the main
Yeah, it
shift?
was really, to make a long story very short, there were a lot of points when I was training pre-professionally to prepare to become a professional ballet dancer, which is extremely competitive, as a lot of people can imagine. The training is very hard, and there's a lot of stress and pressure that dancers feel. So a lot of us on top of that are very prone to perfectionism, being highly self-critical. Nothing is ever good enough for a lot of dancers. I think it attracts a very type A kind of crowd, as you know. And so I experienced a lot of the dark sides of that throughout my journey, especially in my later teens, early 20s. And basically, when I ended up dancing professionally and I experienced a knee injury that caused me to eventually need to step away in order to heal, I was like, you know what? Looking back on my journey, I realized that so often when I was really thriving and excelling and performing to my fullest potential, it's because I was in a good headspace. And I attribute a lot of any success I accomplished to the internal state of confidence I was able to tap into. And conversely, some of the points where I was injured, the most insecure, the most stressed out, struggling a lot internally, that's when my performance suffered and my achievement in the field or success really suffered as well. So I was like, who's talking about this in a way that's specifically tailored to dancers? And I ended up deciding to start to not only find answers for myself, because I was desperate for that, but I also realized there was a big need and a gap in the dance world, not just the ballet world, but just the dance world in general, for dancers of all genres to feel like they can talk to someone who can give them specific education on, like, here is something that you could do to mentally prepare for performances, or here are some practical things you can do to work through the stress or the anxiety before performances so you can get in the zone, calm, relaxed, confident, and go out there and perform your best. Or even some of the more interpersonal struggles that a lot of dancers experience, like insecurities or imposter syndrome, the feeling that you don't belong or someone will suddenly discover you're an imposter, you don't belong there. I wanted to be able to provide that service to dancers in this space where the dancers know they're talking to someone who understands their world and can really help them where they're at. Because I knew that sports psychologists were out there. I knew that therapy is great and it's available. Therapy is great. But what I learned from my own experience and also talking to other peers is that a lot of us knew that was a resource, but we're like, well, I want someone who understands dance. Or, sometimes like myself, we had experiences where the therapist was probably a really great therapist, but the goals of therapy are not always the same as, I want to build confidence to be able to perform my best. Or, maybe sometimes the advice dancers were being given from someone who doesn't specifically work with dancers might not have really landed because the professional didn't understand the context, the culture, and what would really work for a dancer like that. So I was like, well, I guess I can start to figure out how to be that person. And just little by little, I discovered my own way.
Could you share with me, I'm curious, how do you think the culture of the industry, the dance industry, how does that shape and how has that had an impact on dancers nowadays?
There are a lot of aspects of the dance industry that are really great. Growing up as a dancer, a lot of us resonate with valuing that dance training teaches us discipline, self-leadership, and really being able to compartmentalize, perform under pressure, put whatever is going on aside and show up. And, the show must go on is something that we all know what it means to live that. But at the same time, there's just so much I could talk about with dance training and especially the professional dance world that the culture there are a lot of dark sides to it. For example, in the professional ballet world, it's not just implied for especially a female dancer that you are replaceable. You're literally told that sometimes. There's no job security, none. And so it's really easy to notice all of the things that are potential consequences for your lack of perfection. Will I lose my job? Will my boss yell at me? Or my teacher, if you're not a professional? Will the audience see my flaws and be disappointed and think I'm not a very good dancer? You're on display and there's a lot of pressure all the time. So some of that is just built in, it's understandable. And some of it is a bug, something that I think should change within the dance world. But my passion in helping dancers is recognizing that we cannot wait for the culture to change for us to start taking charge of our own confidence and our mental well-being and our own ability to use our mind to help us perform our best. So as much as I want to wave a wand and change toxic teachers and how competitive and dark that world can be, I also want to help dancers where they're at in the current state of affairs.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kirsten. What did you study in college and does it connect with what you're doing today?
Yes. So I love to laugh about this actually because people poo-poo on getting arts majors all the time. And I get it. There's not always a great return on investment, but I was a ballet performance major in college and I got a minor in business administration. I use that degree every day, both in the network. So I've been able to leverage the network I have from the university to go back and speak at my university. I've worked at their summer program before, actually multiple times. And so that's been really cool to take what I do now in my business and use my network from my ballet major to basically just expand what I do and have more opportunities to speak or coach dancers individually. But also I ended up performing professionally as a ballet dancer. And of course, then my professional network that I lean on to build my coaching business, that came also from my professional career. So that being said, yes, I use my degree every day. I didn't get a psychology degree, so we could talk more about what certifications I did to be able to coach dancers.
Awesome.
But yeah, I do use it.
Amazing. I love it. And so, right on what you were about to touch on, could you talk about those specific certifications that are required for you to be successful in this job? And I know we talked about how being a dancer is specifically important and relevant to working with dancers because it creates that connection. Could you tell me if you feel this is the same for coaching in various different areas, like, for example, just career coaching? What does that look like? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. So, to speak to the general audience who's probably listening to this podcast or clips of the podcast, I'm willing to bet that not a lot of people listening are like, I want to be a mindset coach working with dancers. But I will say, before I talk about my specific certifications, whatever niche you choose to serve as a coach, I think it is really common to build a personal brand out of your business. So, meaning you are the face of the business. You are the one who embodies the results that your clients get, which is usually why they want to work with you, because you're an example that success is possible. You understand their experience. And so then therefore your potential clients and then their, clients who work with you, they trust you. They feel like you understand and have the solutions. So that being said, or like I was saying, it's very common to build a personal brand in order out of your coaching business. So in order to build a personal brand, like I said, you want to embody the journey and the results that your clients are going to have. So I do think it's important that whether you're coaching dancers or athletes or corporate professionals, there are lots of executive coaches out there or leadership coaches, whether they work more on the mental side or maybe business coaches, they help with business strategy. There's so many, like I'm sure hundreds of different niches that coaches can work in. It is important to have some experience where that shows you were at one point the client number one. So for me, it was actually dancing professionally. A lot of clients either are dancing professionally that I work with, or they want to. So they see me, they see the struggles I went through and how I had that A to B transformation that they also want. And then combining that with the expertise I built through not only experience in coaching, but also the certifications that I pursued, that helps them to be like, oh, yep, Kirsten's my girl. I can work with her. She's going to help me. So to answer the other question about what certifications I did, I'll tell you which ones I did. But the funny thing about the coaching world is that the good and bad of it is that it's not regulated. Okay, there is a good side of that where it opens the door for a lot of unique coaching businesses that help with in unique niches, like specific people groups, demographics, psychographics, helping them achieve certain goals or overcome certain struggles. So it's very much unlike therapy in that their psychotherapy is highly regulated, and there is a very specific degree path and certification path to become a licensed mental health therapist or marriage and family therapist or something like that. In coaching is very different. So coaches often start by deciding what group of people they want to serve and what problems they want to help them solve and solutions they want to help them achieve. Okay. So for me, I knew that was dancers, in that I want to help them overcome the mental blocks that are stopping them from performing their best and enjoying their journey with mental well-being and confidence. So since that's like the population in the A to B, the specific certifications I ended up pursuing to help me do that was, the first one I started with was I did shoot, it's been so long. What was the actual title? I knew the company was IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. I did their general professional life coaching certification, I think. So that really helped me to just lay a foundation of what does it mean to be a coach, kind of the do's and don'ts of how to do coaching and not therapy, stay within your scope of practice. I follow the International Coaching Federation or Coach Federation. The ICF is what it's called. I follow that code of ethics, ICF. So that was my first certification. I found that was a good general place to start. But then I knew that for me, I wanted to specialize in that psychological component to helping dancers perform their personal best using the power of their mind. So the just general professional life coaching certification wasn't really going to fully do that for me. So I wanted to add on skills. And that's when I decided to get certified in neuro-linguistic programming. I love NLP. I love it. NLP also has so many different applications. I'm not going to take up the whole interview talking about what NLP is, but essentially it's a series, it's a modality for mind change, essentially, that really helps people, no matter what your goals are, overcome subconscious blocks, whether that's limiting beliefs, recurring or repressed negative emotions, internal conflict. It's a series of a bunch of different techniques that basically help people do that internal change in order to achieve their goals, perform their best, and be able to tap into the mental and emotional state that they want. So I actually worked with a coach at one point who specialized in NLP, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. So I ended up getting certified as I went through a bunch of different trainings. So I'm technically a trainer of NLP, so I can certify other people. And I use that skill set to help dancers perform.
Yes. And I've never heard of the NLP specific coaching that you were talking about. I will be looking into that.
It's cool. It's also a crazy world, but it's cool. Some people use it for really weird purposes. I'll just say that. Like NLP is a skill set that you could use to become good at pretty much anything. So people use it for getting good at sales. So the psychology of sales, they use it to be better speakers, leaders. There are so many different applications of NLP, but there's also a dark side of it because it is very powerful and you can use it to influence people. So there are really sketchy people out there who use it to like manipulate. But
Understood.
The good thing is it's so powerful. And so if you're using it with what we call ecology, ethics, and you're using it properly, it's a wonderful way to help people.
That's great. No, that's wonderful. And so I'm just going to kind of add a note to that. So you mentioned specifically that the first certification you got was credited from the International ICF. And so is that something important that you would recommend to anyone looking into getting into coaching? So making sure that those certifications they're getting is accredited from the ICF?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one because I'd say that, yes, it's nice. I do really value how the, IPEC, the program I got certified through, which is, again, accredited through the ICF, I really value how they're very passionate about ethics in coaching and putting in certain codes of ethics in place to where you are serving your clients effectively. Because, like I said, coaching is an unregulated field. There are coaches out there who have never gotten a certification, who are out there doing life coaching, and what they're really doing is therapy. It's way out of scope of practice. They honestly are not qualified to do that. And there are also some people who are not, they never got a certification that are maybe doing great work helping people. So it's not like, oh, you got a certification, then you can do no wrong. But yeah, I do think it can be good to pursue a general certification like IPEC or something like that. I don't think there's a reason why I got other certifications after that, because I thought it was very general, like a good place to start. But like the program wasn't necessarily like, oh my gosh, I think this is the best ever, but it was a good place to start. So I'd say for people listening, check it out. maybe look at different programs accredited by the ICF. Think about what niche you would like to serve, what goals you'd like to help people achieve, and see if that certification or maybe NLP or something would be best to help that client base. So it's kind of a vague answer, but there really is no one size fits all. I don't actually recommend IPEC to everyone who talks to me and they're like, I want to do what you do. But for me, it was a great place to start, and I do often recommend it.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so could you share with me now what are some specific tasks that you spend most of your day doing in this job, and just what does it look like on the day to day? And try to tell me as if you're talking to a third grader or someone who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. That might help.
Yeah, for sure. So this is actually interesting. It's changed over the years. A lot of coaches, when they start, the biggest struggle is building up your client base. So in the beginning, I joked, but it was real. I was a full-time marketer. So I was like reaching out to people, creating content to market my services, build an audience. That takes a while. So now that I'm 6 years into this, I'd say by year 3, I had a pretty decent flow, like enough clients. But even for me, with a full caseload of clients, maybe that's me serving about 20 clients at a time. I don't meet with all of them every single week. So in my meetings, for some coaches, they do like 30-minute sessions every week or an hour every week. Some do lower frequency. Again, it depends on the population you're helping. But for me, I meet with most clients every other week during our set program of 4 months. And so, on an average week, I might have 8 hours of coaching sessions. It's not a lot, actually. But I like that because I'm able to balance my time doing the coaching sessions. And like I said, maybe 8 max 10 hours a week of coaching. That would be the maximum. And then the rest of the time, I am creating content. So whether that is preparing Instagram posts, I probably spend maybe, let's say, an hour and a half a week on Instagram between preparing posts. I also have help with that. I have a social media marketing assistant. She helps me make my graphics and some of my reels and things like that. But, maybe I'm also posting on stories, responding to messages, things like that. So I spend some time on Instagram. I also film YouTube videos. I batch film them once a month. So today is my day for that. I might spend, let's say, maximum like 3 hours a month, because I've gotten like very efficient filming all my YouTube videos, sending them out to my editor. I have help editing. And then I probably spend, I know I'm doing it per week because my days are pretty variable, but let's say I spend, after I do that 3-hour chunk once a month filming my YouTube videos, I probably spend 30 minutes a week uploading them to YouTube, getting them on my podcast. I have an email list, so I might spend about 30 minutes a week. I could be spending more time, honestly, on my email list, but sending out an email, like providing some value. So a lot of what I do outside of the actual coaching sessions is content creation in order to market my services, because it's very important, again, with a personal brand, to build an audience, keep that audience engaged, and then the people in my audience some will eventually become my clients. So then I might also spend about, let's say, it could be, I could have no podcast interviews. Some weeks I have like 4 podcast interviews where I'm scheduled to be on other people's podcasts. So that's another way that I get the word out. Again, building my audience, building authority. So overall, I'd say there's that. And then other than content creation, other things I do during my week are just like admin stuff. So responding to emails, maybe it's inquiries or different creators I'm collaborating with. pitching for speaking engagements, because usually summertime is the time where I also speak quite a bit at different summer programs, but I do it throughout the year as well. So sometimes, I'm responding to emails, preparing for speaking engagements, or preparing my talk to speak. So those are, in addition to just like the silly stuff, like calling customer support for my website hosting platform because something went wrong, between all of those things, I'd say I typically work probably max 30 hours a week, which is great.
Okay.
I love
That's
that. And
amazing.
that's actually quite common for some coaches, because it is similar to therapy in that full time is not 40 hours a week of meetings. That would run a person just flat into the ground.
Yes.
It's very, it's fulfilling to do this work, but I find that sometimes even after 3 hours of meetings in one day, I'm like, I feel drained in a good way. Like I gave a lot of energy. I gave a lot of
Yes.
myself. I held a lot of space for someone's emotions. So that's also why I don't have very many meetings in a week, because I give a lot in those meetings. So anyway, that was, again, long form answer, but my week is a mix of all those things that usually ends up maybe sometimes 25 hours a week, 30 hours a week, something like that.
Awesome. No, that's great to hear. So essentially it's about running your business, creating that clientele. Really works for someone who might want to do some content creation, because that's a way to drive those clients in. So it's a lot of putting yourself out there, using your network, then having those
Yes.
meetings and kind of expanding. Like really it's about what is it called? Like having more reach, because you mentioned those podcast interviews you do. So a lot of that work, definitely. Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. I love that. Could you tell me, from all those aspects, what is your one most exciting or interesting part of the job for you?
Well, I love the coaching, which is great because that's obviously the main part of what I do. Even if I don't spend most of my week doing that, it's what it's all about for me. So when I'm able to talk to a dancer individually, or sometimes even a group of dancers, I've done group coaching before, that is so rewarding for me to see the aha moments for them, to see them let go of whatever's been burdening them or stopping them in their journey. It's just super meaningful for me because I know what it was like to be there. And so when I
Yes.
get to help, it's like,
Feels good.
that's what I love.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. And from that, what is the part that you find the most challenging or the most boring out of your job, if you had to pick one thing?
Yes. I hate hours of computer work. I hate it. It's really good that I'm not some like working in technology or some sort of like computer software engineer or anything like that, because I hate being on the computer, just not talking to anyone, but just like, I don't know, plugging away, doing just computer tasks. So even
Yes.
emails or sometimes doing creative things is good. But if I'm doing like back end tech stuff, I'm like, ugh, not for me. Not for me. That will
Not your
drain me
jam.
more than a day full of meetings.
Yeah,
I'm
I
truly an
understand that.
extrovert.
Agreed, for sure, definitely. Good thing to keep in mind. Definitely want to be an
Yeah.
extrovert if you want to be in this job. Okay, so we've reached the part of the interview where I'm going to do some rapid fire questions for you. So these are kind of like quick, and we're going to go through a whole list of them. So here we go.
Mhm.
Okay, what is a day in the life like in terms of wake up time, start time, end time, and breaks?
Okay, love that. So I usually wake up around 7:15, 7:30. Um, I usually get started sometimes around 9 a.m., but sometimes I go to a dance class just for myself. That's like my me time. And there are days where I start at like 11, and then I just have a condensed work time. Sometimes I might work until like 6, 6 o'clock. But a lot of times I either have my breaks in the morning when I do my dance classes a couple times a week for myself, or if I start at 9 a.m. and then I know I have meetings until like 6 p.m. or something,
Yes.
which doesn't always happen, but it's common. Then I'll take some breaks in the afternoon just to do personal tasks or exercise. That's it's a really great way that I get out of my head and enjoy my life.
So your day-to-day tends to be pretty flexible. So I'm curious to know, would you say that it has a season throughout the year where it might feel more slow-paced and other times where it feels more fast-paced?
Yeah, it's not always consistent year to year, but there are definitely months, like sometimes late spring. I think a lot of dancers are very busy with auditions or competitions or their spring performances. That usually mid to late spring, it's kind of on the slower side.
Okay.
The beginning of the year, there's usually an uptick in more business because people come back from Christmas break and they're like, New Year, new me, or audition season is coming up, so they want some help. Summer is definitely a busy season for me. That's, again, when I speak quite a lot, either in person or over Zoom. I go to different schools, universities, dance companies, and I'll speak there. And fall, it's not usually
Yeah.
consistent. Sometimes there are busy times and sometimes there are not. It just really depends on how many inquiries I get for new clients coming in to work with me.
You had talked about like having meetings, but also having someone who helps you run social media and someone who helps you edit your videos.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, even though you have that aspect of collaboration, would you say that most of what you do in your business is done as solo work?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So I tend to get into a really easy and efficient flow with any of the contractors I work with, who help me edit videos or make my social media graphics. So my interaction with them is very minimal. Like we don't even have meetings. We've just gotten into a point where they know exactly what I'm looking for. I send them instructions and they do their magic. So I don't even
That's
really have
great.
any
That
meetings
is
with
awesome.
my employees. So yeah, it's mostly solo work.
Okay, perfect. And then moving on, could you share with me what you wear for work on the daily?
A cute top and then pajama pants or like sweat pants. To be
Yes.
honest, like come on, I work over Zoom.
Yeah,
You
gotta look
know,
good from the hips up.
yes,
Whatever fits on the Zoom, right?
yes.
Okay, and then you already answered which parts of the year might get busier, so
Mhm.
let's go ahead and say, I know specifically you work from home. Do you mainly and only work remotely with your clients, or have you
Mhm.
also had work with them in office or anything of the sort?
So mostly I work over Zoom remotely with 100% of my clients. There was only one client in the past that I worked with in person, but I ended up just trying it and deciding, you know what, Zoom is much better, just more efficient. And so, yeah, mostly work remotely, other than when I travel to speak in person at different workshops, summer programs, things like that. But that's like a rare treat throughout my year. It definitely wouldn't be sustainable if I was traveling all the time to do that. So, yes,
I
mostly
got
over
you.
Zoom.
Awesome. Great. So very remote friendly, which is good to know.
Hmm.
And then do you feel that you're able to leave work at the office, so during your hours of work, or do you happen to have that issue of like mixing, home time and like relaxing time with work time?
That's a good question. I do sometimes struggle with that separation, mostly because I am kind of addicted to checking my email. I need to stop that. But if I do want to unplug, I don't generally find that hard. So
Okay.
that is useful. I can take time off pretty much whenever I need or whenever I want. So that's
That's great.
amazing.
Yeah, love that. And then, okay, so we talked about the flexibility of the work and the nature of the work. Could you tell me about some tools or technologies that you use on the day to day? I know you work over Zoom. Is there anything else specifically that
Yeah.
makes your job easier?
Yeah, so Zoom, I use MailChimp, but there are so many different emailing platforms. So I
Yes.
use that for my email list. I obviously use YouTube, Spotify for podcasters, which used to be Anchor to distribute my podcast. I use ClickUp for planning all my social media content, and my social media assistant helps me. She sees all of her tasks in there. So that's what I use.
Great.
I'm sure I have some others, but those are the main ones
Main ones.
main platforms I use. I'm not super into tech. So I think I could really be using AI and all that stuff to change my life, but
user
that's what I
friendly
use for
is
now.
the way to go. Yeah. Okay. I love it. Okay. And now that we're done with the rapid fire, I have a few more questions. So
Cool.
what is something, if you could tell me, that people underestimate about this profession? And then while we're on that, if you could tell me about something people overestimate about it, that'd be great.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So what people often underestimate is, I'd say, how much marketing is a part of this work if you want to have your own business of any kind. Um, Sales, it's the most important part of having a business. If you do not have sales, you do not have a business. So especially if anyone who's listening or watching wants to become a coach, your biggest task in the beginning will be learning how to communicate what you do in order to inspire people to work with you so that you can build up a client base. That's like the biggest number one challenge and focus of any new coach. And then learning to get consistent with the sales. It's been hard for me. Yeah, that's been like the biggest part of my journey, is learning how to build an audience, build authority in order to get consistent sales. So yeah, that's what people really underestimate. It's like, if you don't want to be a marketer basically and do sales, then it's going to be hard to be a coach full time and earn a good income.
Makes sense. And then for overestimating, if you could share what you think about that.
I'd say overestimating, and this is something that I think is also an opportunity for me to work on, but I noticed what I overestimated before getting into this work is just how like blissful it would be every day. Like I thought, oh my gosh, this just seems like it's such a dream life, dream job. And it is, but I think my view of the work was also influenced by certain business coaches on Instagram who were like, I will help you make millions 5 hours a week from the comfort of the side of a pool in Bali, you know? And so those coaches are obviously trying to sell you something. So actually what I overestimated is, you know, I expected this job to just be my everything, and I'm glad it's not, which helps me to enjoy it more. It's a job like any other job. It feels like a job sometimes, but I'm very, very blessed that I have flexibility and that I am able to do something purposeful and something that's very personally meaningful. So that's why I say it's a little bit of an opportunity for me to continue to practice appreciation for that, because at the end of the day, I am deeply grateful and I feel very, very lucky and fortunate that I can do this.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's something you're passionate about. So, and it shows. So it's great to hear how you can use that in what you do on your day to day. Okay. So could you tell me, Kirsten, what is the fastest way to get into this profession, especially if it's someone coming from maybe a non-traditional background that just wants to get their foot in the door to this type of job?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say a couple of things. Like I had already said, get as clear as you can, as early as you can, on what population you're trying to help, what you want to help them overcome, and what aspirational goals you want to help them achieve. Once you know your niche and what you want to specialize in, that helps with marketing so much. It takes coaches a long time. It took me a while to really narrow in on that message, but narrowing in on the message is what ended up making my business sustainably successful. Before that, sales were very spotty. You know, if you can't communicate what you do, it's very hard for people to understand it. Then, you know, people won't buy something they don't understand. So that's what I would recommend. And I'd say, other than getting a certification, definitely get that. I think every coach should. Get a certification. This isn't absolutely necessary, and this is a tricky one, but it can be helpful to hire a business coach in order to just help you figure out all the marketing things in the back end of setting up your business. That's going to really help. I hesitate with that though, because there are a lot of business coaches that are honestly pretty scammy out there. That's like the dark side of the unregulated industry. So,
Right.
as much as you can, like really try to vet the people through the sales calls, maybe try to connect with clients that these business coaches tag on Instagram, ask about their real experience. Do not pay an astronomical amount that you're really uncomfortable
Yes.
paying, because there are a lot of coaches that will honestly charge you astronomical amounts of money to give you advice
Like
that
a
a coach
consultant.
that charges less. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Excuse me, a coach who charges less could tell you the same thing. So be
Yes.
very choosy about who you hire, but the right person really can make a difference.
Amazing. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And okay, so I know we talked about you specifically, studied dance and you wanted to kind of connect and have an impact in the industry. And that's how you landed in coaching
hmm
specifically for dancers. But do you think that this is a field where people come into it from very random, backgrounds, or do you see a theme of the type of professional that may pivot into this
Yeah.
job?
Sure. Yeah. So for the type of coaching I do specifically, all of the other professionals I know who have gotten into the kind of work that I do over the last couple years, I think there's a question you might ask about this, like what other names this profession goes by,
Hmm.
and I can mention those when you ask. But um, yeah, all of those professionals, since we work with dancers, all of us have a background in dance. I don't think we could be successful at what we do without that, because the reason why a dancer will pay a premium to work with me is because they know I
Yes.
really understand their path and I've lived through it, versus, they could pay a lot less to work with someone who's much more general but doesn't understand dance. So
Yes.
for my field, that's really important. But in the realm of coaching, like I said, as long as your potential client has enough evidence that you understand where they're coming from and you embody the solution so you can help them create that solution for themselves. If you work with a different niche, like Kelsey, with the called career, she has a background in tech consulting, but she works
Yeah.
with people who are wanting to pivot into all sorts of different careers to help them finding a meaningful career. So it's less important that she did tech consulting and more important that she embodied the general journey of like a corporate
Yes.
career to finding something else more meaningful. So
Agree.
it's not like Kelsey had to have specific experience being like a geologist to help a geologist. But yeah, that's my kind
Yes.
of general answer. It's not
And
always
here, just kind
necessary,
of
but it really
going
depends on
to
your
touch
niche.
base on some things you mentioned earlier. I know you said it's really important to be able to market your business. You want to be probably a very extroverted person, someone okay with creating content, with putting yourself out there. Is that, would you agree that that is like what has to come easily for you in order to be successful in this profession?
So I'd say I do know coaches. Like I have a good friend who coaches dancers on helping them improve their body image and their relationship with food. She's actually quite a quiet and introverted person, but she's been very successful at what she does because she still is able to show up and share her message. She doesn't have to do it in a super loud, extroverted, charismatic way to be effective. She's just authentic and she's genuinely good at what she does. And she is able to, again, demonstrate that she understands her potential clients. So I'd say it's less about needing to be an extrovert in or particularly charismatic, although that can help, and more about no matter your personality, you must be willing to show up and to be visible. That is an absolute non negotiable. But I do know
Yes.
many speakers, even like um, people have done really popular and famous TED Talks who built a whole career off of public speaking that are actually introverted. I mean, Susan Cain, she has her whole like book called Quiet. It's about introverts and she's an introvert, but she's been a speaker and an author.
Yeah.
So you just have to be willing to be visible.
That is encouraging to different types of people and different personalities out there that might be looking into this. Okay. And I am curious, you've been doing this for 6 years. How long would you say it took you to get really good at this job?
I'd say about 3 years in, to be honest, is when I really hit my stride. That's when I figured out more about branding, marketing. I started to really narrow in on like, here's how I want to design my programs to be the most effective for clients. So that's when I started to really hit a stride. But I think some people might hit it a little sooner, some later. It's just personal.
Yeah. And okay, this is a more personal question. So please feel free to answer in a wide range. But could you share what an average salary might look like for
Yeah.
someone who is going to go into this profession? Perhaps maybe share how that has changed or increased, or how you can expect it to as you are part of the profession for a longer period. Anything that might be relevant, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that it can be a sensitive topic. But I would want to know this. And a lot of people who I've talked to over the years have clearly been surprised that I earn a full-time income from this job. Because it sounds like, especially to someone who doesn't dance, it sounds like, what? There's a demand for that? What? That's like a really valuable thing. And I've had people like say kind of insulting things to my face. And so this is really terrible, but like sometimes when I drive around in my nice car, I think of that. I'm like, haha, they don't
Yeah,
know.
as you
But
should.
yeah, in the beginning, okay, so I'll say like the range that coaching offers in terms of income per year, it's so big. Most coaches, just statistically, I don't think a lot of coaches actually do this full time. It's easy to
Okay.
kind of do part time, or maybe they do it on the side or whatever. But a lot of coaches do not earn a full time income. I've heard lots of statistics, like most make below the poverty line, which probably suggests they're not doing it full time. But that's
Okay.
not necessarily bad if they have another job. Like, for example, when I was building up my business and it didn't earn me enough money to be my full time job,
Yes.
I taught ballet on the side, and that was great. And it's awesome because you don't have to do coaching full time. Now it's my full time income, but I don't work full time, which is great. So you can
Yeah.
earn anything from like a few $1,000s a year, maybe by devoting a good chunk of your time to, there are coaches who make millions of dollars. It depends on your niche for sure. Typically, if you're doing business coaching or you are coaching a population who has a lot of money and you're solving a problem that's worth a lot of money to them, for example, sales coaches, people who help you with marketing and sales, people who help you grow your business. Those are usually the niches that make the most money. Or coaches who are coaching coaches. I have a lot to say about that. I won't really get into it. I have a lot of thoughts on how sometimes the coaching world is kind of like a big MLM when coaches start to earn coaches, and the coaches that coach coaches are the coaches that make the most money. But
Chill.
yeah, those are usually the ones making the millions of dollars. But there are also some people doing very honest work who are helping non-coaches maybe improve their relationship with food, body image, helping them with their fitness journey. Fitness coaches, some make really good money. So, okay, specifically for me, since now we know the range is truly anything, because there are
Yes.
all sorts of types of coaches and niches. So I
Yes.
personally know coaches who make $500,000 a year
Wow.
personally. So
That's great.
that's possible. For me, more like in my niche, and hopefully this is encouraging people to, because again, I coach dancers, which a lot of
Yes.
dancers, especially professionals, don't make a lot of money, but still in my work, um, I've had take home pay of up to $70,000 a year in the last 2 years. And so that's provided for my life. That's been great for me. And now this year I'm on track to make six figures or over $100,000 a year. So
Yeah.
I know six figures is like such a buzz term. It could mean anything from $100,000 to $999,000. So
Well, let's
yeah,
hope
I
for the
mean,
higher, you know?
yeah, I hope.
Always
Yeah,
ready.
this year, that's
Yeah.
what I'm on track to do. And I hope
That's
it's not a
amazing.
guarantee because we're towards the beginning of the year, but every
Yes.
year I get better. So
Yes.
yeah, for this year I made
That's
more in revenue,
wonderful.
honestly, obviously, but that's my take home. So yeah, I like to be honest about that because there are a lot of coaches who, I mean, I could say, yeah, I made 90 something $1,000, but you're talking about revenue. That's not like after tax take home pay after your expenses and all that stuff. So yeah, 60 to 70 in take home after tax pay. That's more of the number I've had in the last 2 years.
Yes. Okay. No, well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is one, extremely encouraging, and two, I think transparency is one of the things that can honestly help people
Yeah.
just pivot, transition. And as a young professional, like getting to hear all these
Yeah.
different stories and all these interviews has been super eye-opening. And thank you for sharing that, Kirsten. I
Mm-hmm.
really, it is
Yeah. Yeah.
inspiring.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so last few questions for you. When people in your field tend to move on, if ever, what kind of work do you find that they often go into next? And are there any themes, or do they just, go back to maybe what they did before?
Yeah, so I think people honestly go into anything, or one thing I've noticed is I do think a lot of women are particularly attracted to coaching. And so I've noticed some themes of either they decide to maybe focus on their family once they have a family and either work part time, or some become authors and get out of individual coaching, but then they go into like maybe selling online courses or authors or selling books, so that they're not
Yes.
doing that one-on-one work all the time. I noticed that's quite common that people scale out of one-on-one. I think for
Yes.
now, I want to stay in it. My goal isn't just like, oh, scale to the maximum possible income and just funnel everyone into an online course, because I've kind of tried that. And I realize actually what I do love and feel passionate about is one on one. Like if I'm not doing that, I feel kind of sad. So,
I got
yeah,
you.
some people scale into like selling online courses or books, or they start another business and they maybe do like a product based business that's unrelated. But I've noticed a lot of coaches um, scaling into something or changing into something like that, or
Yes.
either just retiring and choosing to maybe focus on their family or something like that.
Okay.
But yes, I'm obviously connected to a lot of women, so that's my primary
Yes.
example. But I'm not sure
No.
what the guys out there do who coach.
No, that makes complete sense. And I love to hear that. There seems to be different paths. It's a
Yeah.
very flexible job that
Hmm.
does allow specifically women to have that,
Yeah.
avenue of income or full-time income to scale it. So love
Yeah.
to hear that. It's very interesting. And then, okay, so Kirsten, are there any books or resources, podcasts that you listen to that you would recommend for someone wanting to get into the profession? I know you shared a little
Yeah.
bit about the certifications earlier, but something maybe that's free and available to everyone would be, or even a little expensive, like a book.
Yeah. Let's see. Hmm. There are quite a lot. I'm not even sure some of them are still available because I focused a lot on following different business coaches and taking online courses in the beginning of my journey a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And then since then, I've actually found it more helpful to just focus on what decisions I want to make for my business and kind of cut out the noise of what other people say I should do.
Yes.
Not to sound arrogant, because I do think input is valuable, but yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So some resources I can suggest, Vanessa Lau on YouTube. She took a sabbatical from her business. She actually was wildly successful, got burnt out from it. She was basically a business coach. And then now she's more of like, I think, a lifestyle content creator. But in her past, she has tons of really, really helpful and valuable free resources like YouTube videos to help you know how to market your business, set it up, things like that. So I'd recommend Vanessa Lau.
She's
Um,
great.
yes, you know who I'm talking about.
I listened to her.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
she's
watch her
awesome.
videos.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
Yes.
of her videos went viral, so I'm not surprised you know who
Yeah.
she is. So yeah, she's
Yeah.
great. Um, the name, Amy Porterfield, Online Marketing Made Easy. She has a great podcast, and I think she still has her course, Digital Course Academy. If any potential coaches listening want to go into creating an online course, because that's a very popular thing to do, then she's a great resource for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and actually Amy Porterfield, especially on her podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy, that's a really great resource to then find out about a lot of other professionals in the marketing space. Because there are honestly so many people. I know there's like a Facebook ads guy who's very popular. His name is escaping me, but pretty much anyone on Amy Porterfield's podcast, they're going to be leaders in the field. So Vanessa Lau, Amy Porterfield, those are the people coming to mind right now.
Love to hear it. I will be looking into them as well. Okay, so we've reached the moment for the very final question of the interview. So, Kirsten, could you tell me, what would you tell your younger self who was just getting started in this profession?
Yeah.
What is some piece of advice?
Yeah, I'd say I would really like to go back and reassure myself and say, actually a piece of reassurance that someone else was very kind to give me early on. One woman said, "Don't be afraid of small beginnings." I would really encourage myself in that, and any other coach who's starting, because personally, I got very discouraged because I had such high, somewhat unrealistic expectations of how fast I would hit success. And like, I was personally working with a business coach who was, I think it was a scam, to be honest, that I got caught up in because I didn't know what I should be looking for in a coach. And so he sold me this dream of like, make $1 million in 2 years, or a lot of coaches online who are, again, are business coaches. They are marketing to coaches. And so they dominate a lot of times online and set this picture of what it looks like to be a successful coach. And a lot of them sell this story of make 6 figures in your first year. I personally know people who have done that, but actually almost every single one of them was a spiritual business coach. And there can be, I don't want to throw any shade right now, but there can be a lot of manipulation that happens in that niche, and a lot of reasons why they make so much money. It's because they sell this vision of, again, super fast success. And you have to kind of often be in a certain niche to get that. So for my niche, since I felt very called to working with dancers, and I didn't really have many other, no, and I actually didn't know anyone who was doing exactly what I was doing. So for coaches like that, if you don't have another model to follow, then you are the pioneer in the field. And when you don't have a lot of other people to follow, it can take longer. So that's why I would tell myself, don't be afraid of small beginnings. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Just give yourself time, because that's really all I needed. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. And again, what you're doing, it's inspiring. You're passionate about it. You are making an impact. The reason you're doing it is the right reasons. I love that you have helped kind of expose today that there is a lot of different sides to coaching, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And so it's something to definitely, focus on if you're going into the field, and just keep that in mind. But thank you so much for everything you shared with us today, Kirsten. Very valuable information, and it will make a huge difference for a lot of people, young professionals like me, who are trying to decide what to do with their lives. And yeah, do you want to share where people can find you after this interview before we wrap up?
Yeah, totally. So if anyone would like to reach out to me, I never really use LinkedIn, but I do have a LinkedIn profile. I updated it for this episode so people can reach out to me there if you have questions or want to connect. So my LinkedIn link it's just under my name, Kirsten Kemp, but we'll include it in the show notes, I'm sure. Otherwise, where I really spend my time on the internet is YouTube and Instagram. And I also have a website. So The website is theconfidentdancer.com or kirstenkemp.com. My name, they go to the same place. My YouTube channel and podcast are the Confident Dancer YouTube channel or the Confident Dancer podcast, if anyone wants to check that out. And on Instagram, I am Kirsten_the Confident Dancer. So yeah, if anyone would like to just gain inspiration there, see how I do what I do, the messages I put out online, or if you want to message me there, that's where you can find me.
No, that's great. And once again, thank you. And we appreciate you for coming on to the podcast today.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!